Doc was this incredible musician who could fingerpick. He could flat pick. He could join Flatt and Scruggs on a Columbia Bluegrass album that had to be fabulous, and it was. And he could also work with really deeply old-time traditional musicians and fit right in with them. He was also a fabulous character who was smart and wise and did amazing things. And I used to enjoy sitting around backstage and talking to Doc Watson, and he would tell me such interesting things about his life. Like one time, he said, "You know, Dan, I've been building a shortwave antenna on I think he said on his garage." And remember, Doc Watson was a blind person and had been blind since childhood. He did all kinds of things. He worked on his house. He got up on ladders, and he installed the antenna for a shortwave radio that he bought. And I said, Doc, that's really interesting. What got you interested in this? He said, "I decided I wanted to listen to the BBC." And in those days, there wasn't cable TV and all of that. And so if you wanted to listen to the BBC, you had to get a shortwave radio and listen to it from England. And Doc decided that he wasn't getting the straight story from the news media. He said, "I don't think the news people are telling me the straight story or the whole story." And he thought that the BBC would tell him that whole story. So Doc Watson, the man whose hands were priceless in this world, the guy who could not see from childhood, was up on the roof of his garage installing the antenna for a shortwave radio, as I understood his story that he was telling me, so that he could listen to the BBC to get the news. That's the kind of guy he was. And he loved his son and his grandson and his family. I'll tell you another story about Doc Watson. The first time I saw him was way back in the late 60s when I was in Louisville playing with the Bluegrass Alliance. The Bill Monroe Festival grounds were just across the river up in Indiana at, I forget the name of the town in Indiana, but anyway, not too far from the Ohio River. And I went up there for a festival one day, and Doc Watson was going to appear at that festival. And Doc did appear. I have a couple of pictures that I took of him. I guess that's the second time I saw him live. And he had come to Bean Blossom, Indiana. That's the name of the town, Bean Blossom. He had ridden from North Carolina to Indiana by himself with a guitar and his suitcase. He had come up on the bus as a blind person. The guy could get around, and he could depend on people to help him get off and on the right bus and make it to Indiana and play gigs way back then. So he truly was one of the most monumental human beings and one of the most sweet, brilliant, powerful musicians that the world has ever seen. And it was a great privilege of mine to know Doc a little bit.